free agent frenzy. It has been absolutely bananas so far in day one of free agency, and we've got a lot of things going on. This is kind of the pre-tampering period before free agency really 100% begins on Wednesday, right? So we've already seen a lot of movement. A lot of people are starting to dictate, okay, this is where I'm going to go, this is where I'm going to sign. Deals are being made, and we're going to go over all of them as of the recording of this video right now in this show, guys. So just sit back, relax, kind of figure out what are the fantasy football implications for all of these guys, right? The first, guys, it's time for us now to talk about Aaron Jones. Now, he ended up signing a 2-year extension, or really re-signing with the Minnesota Vikings. Ends up having a $20 million contract over 2 years. $13 million of that is guaranteed, and I think that is a great move for where they're going as an offense and as a team. We know Sam Darnold, he's now moved along, and now it's going to be J.J. McCarthy. He's really going to be in his rookie season. You know, his real rookie season was cut short due to injury. Now he gets a step in here. And now he has a plethora of weapons, you know, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, and now a veteran running back who ran for over 1,300 rushing yards last season in Aaron Jones. He's able to take a lot of pressure off of a young quarterback's shoulder, and that's what J.J. McCarthy does. And I remember when he did play back into Michigan, he was more of kind of a game manager, really, not really necessarily taking the ball on his arm and winning games himself. So having a good running game is going to help him develop into the best quarterback. Aaron Jones should be a nice signing and a 2-year contract for a little bit of an older running back, but I think that is what this offense needs as of right now to help J.J. McCarthy grow. So now it's just time for us to get into the next guy. That's going to be Marquise Hollywood Brown. He is the next guy we are getting into today, and he ended up going back there with the Chiefs, kind of re-signing with these guys. Goes with a 1-year, $11 million deal. Now, he was hurt for most of the season for Patrick Mahomes, but when he was able to really come back into his own, come back for this offense, he was actually somebody that Patrick Mahomes was starting to lean on. Now, we know Rashee Rice is coming back into this offense, so Brown isn't going to have to be the #1 wide receiver for this team. You got Rashee Rice, you got Hollywood Brown on the outside there. Travis Kelce's coming back for another year, so it looks like they have some weapons for Patrick Mahomes to use. Hollywood Brown is somebody that he can depend on. As long as he can stay healthy, we already know Hollywood Brown's biggest problem is just staying on the field. He's fast, he can get it out of his breaks, and he has good hands. He just has to be able to stay healthy. He's not been able to do that thus far throughout his career, whether he was with Baltimore, whether with the Cardinals. Doesn't matter what he's doing. So if he stays on the field, this could be a really good option, especially if Rashee Rice comes back nice and healthy, Brown comes back nice and healthy. You should see Patrick Mahomes really start to develop even more chemistry with these wide receivers. I think this signing by the Brown, 1-year deal on that, so they don't have to break the bank for the guy, but I think it's going to help him overall just maybe go to another Super Bowl. That's kind of what they're at anyway, right? So it's time to now go over Davante Adams. He ends up signing over there with the Rams. He signed a 2-year deal worth $46 million, and that's with $26 million of that guaranteed. Now, there's been a lot of different opinions out there thus far. Are we overpaying for a quarterback? Well, I think this is the last hurrah. Matthew Stafford's going to come back. He's going to be the quarterback for this offense. They already got Puka Nacua on the outside. Kyron Williams back at the running back spot. They're trying to make one last push. They did really good last season in the playoffs when they made it all the way up there and played the Buccaneers. So I think that they believe that they are kind of on the cusp, on the verge of doing something special. So why not bring in a proven wide receiver like Davante Adams to take over Cooper Kupp's spot, let Cooper Kupp go? They said if they can't find a deal by the time, I think it's June, whatever the date is, they're just going to release him. They're going to just let him go. They're done with Cooper Kupp. They are moving on. Now it's Davante Adams coming into town. So I think Davante Adams, could he be a good fantasy option for you? Well, I do think so. I think Matthew Stafford could easily throw up, 300 to 350 yards passing in any given game. He's shown to do that multiple times. And he's able to put 2 wide receivers out there to be fantasy viable. So not only Puka Nacua is going to get his, Davante Adams is also going to get his as well. I like this move by the Rams. Get Davante Adams in there. Could be a nice fantasy football steal or come draft day for you too. So I do like myself some Davante Adams. So move right along here. The next guy we have to talk about here is going to be Austin Hooper. He ends up re-signing with the Patriots. 1-year, $5 million deal. I think that's good for Drake May coming in here. We know Hunter Henry is the #1 tight end at this spot. Hooper's going to do his job. He was able to be a consistent contributor for Drake May when he was passing the football. May likes to throw it to his tight end position, and for some reason, he's built up a nice chemistry with Austin Hooper. So we were able to see him have multiple receptions each and every game. Shoot, I was even playing a lot of best ball and playing the over on the receptions props for Hooper, and I think I've hit on almost all of those. So Hooper, I think, was a good deal. Even though it's a 1 year, $5 million deal, I think Hooper is a good thing for Drake May's chemistry for him to keep on building that rapport. So move right along here. We're going to talk about Josh Allen. He ends up signing an extension, right? 6 year, $330 million. Can you imagine how much money that is? Holy balls, right? A lot of it. And let's talk about the guaranteed money. $250 million guaranteed, and that's with Josh Allen having 4 years left on his contract already. They wanted to reward their quarterback, MVP type season. I mean, he's over there doing his thing. They're like, you know what? Let's go ahead and push the envelope. 6 years, $330 million for our star quarterback in Josh Allen. You can't be mad at that situation. I think that's a good thing for Josh Allen, good thing for the Bills, so they can continue to develop, right? So now it's time for us to talk about DK Metcalf. We've got to talk about this guy, right? This was a huge trade that we saw, kind of set some ripples through the NFL when he got traded over there from the Seahawks over there to the Steelers. He got traded over there for a 2nd round pick, and then they were able to flip-flop both 6th and 7th round picks. So they did a little flip-flop at the back end of the draft, ended up with a 2nd round pick, and then the Steelers came back and they ended up signing DK Metcalf to a 5-year, $150 million deal. He is going to be the guy for the Steelers moving forward. Now, do they trade away Pickens? We don't know. Are Pickens going to be the number 2 wide receiver? We don't know. They're talking to wide receiver, to quarterbacks. Is it going to be Russell Wilson coming back? Is it going to be Aaron Rodgers coming back? I think Aaron Rodgers would be a better fit for this offense. I think as far as fantasy football goes, Russell Wilson wasn't really airing the ball out at this point. So I think Aaron Rodgers coming to town could be a little bit of a bump for DK Metcalf, because I think Rodgers is better than Geno Smith. A bump for Metcalf, a bump for George Pickens. I think this offense could really turn if they're able to convince Aaron Rodgers to come in. But, you know, as the recording of this video, they haven't really secured down who their quarterback is going to be as of right now. But I do like it. They punched a big old 5-year contract over there with DK Metcalf, saying, okay, you are our 1A type of guy. Now we got George Pickens, who wants to cry like a baby all the time. Do you want to be with the team or not? They may just trade him and ship him on out of there. Who knows? But if they're able to keep Pickens, that's 2 wide receivers. That could be a deadly combination at the wide receiver position. If you have somebody, especially like Aaron Rodgers coming to town, that could be a lot of fantasy points for this offense. If they turn away from being the churn, run it down your throat offense to more of an air attack, this could be really good for fantasy football. So now it's time to kind of go into the next guy here. It's time to talk about Geno Smith, right? And he was traded over there to the Raiders. He was only traded for a 3rd round pick. Now the Raiders got themselves a starting quarterback. What does that mean for fantasy football? Well, it means Brock Bowers now has a quarterback that can throw him the football. Now, you're not really kind of linking Geno Smith into a great tight end like Noah Fant. Was he really great for tight ends? No, not really. But when you have somebody like Brock Bowers who can split out wide, play into the slot, all types of different things, I think this could be really good. Now you have a better quarterback to manage this offense. They still got Jacoby Myers on the outside. They're probably going to end up drafting another wide receiver too to put on the outside. But as of right now, I think the offense for the Raiders is going to help you fantasy football wise if you are a dynasty owner with Brock Bowers, or even redraft if you decide to take an early pick on Brock Bowers. Feel a little bit more secure that you now have a quarterback to be able to deliver him the football consistently. I like this move by the Raiders. So now it's time to go into the next guy here. It's time for us to talk about Chris Godwin. He ends up going back and re-signing with the Buccaneers, kind of creating some more magic. Now, he was awesome before he ended up getting injured, but he ends up re-signing for a 3-year, $66 million contract. $44 million of that is guaranteed. So look, he could be the guy of the near future for the Buccaneers. They still got Mike Evans out there. They still got Baker Mayfield. They still got Bucky Irvin in the backfield and Rachaad White. So what are they going to be able to do, right? They can bring Rachaad White and make him happy, and Bucky Irvin's probably going to be the number 1A guy over there. And then Chris Godwin maybe starts to slide into more of the main role again, right? So they put him out from the outside. They put him into the slot, which he always does better into the slot. And we saw what that was able to produce: fantasy football numbers and wins for the Buccaneers. This is great news for fantasy football owners, especially dynasty owners who own Chris Godwin. This is going to be great. Now, if he can come back from this gruesome injury he had, that's to be seen. But I think overall, the Buccaneers give themselves a great wide receiver, lock him up for the next several years, and let's see, this could be fantasy fireworks just waiting to happen. You might be able to get him cheap too, because he's coming off an injury. If he comes back healthy, you got yourself a stud. So Now it's time to go over the next guy. Let's start going over Sam Darnold. Now he did great. He kind of rejuvenated his career over there with the Vikings. Now he's a free agent. Where did he go? He ended up going over there with the Seahawks. They end up signing Sam Darnold for a 3-year, $110.5 million contract with $55 million of that guaranteed. A lot of people are saying he might be overpaid. They kind of seen where he was going. He finally had one good season. You give him over $110 million to come play quarterback for you after you just got rid of DK Metcalf. You let go of Tyler Lockett. Who knows what's going on, right? I mean, Geno Smith and everybody's all out of there now, coming in Sam Darnold. You got Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's going to be the one there. And who you got? Bobo at the number 2 right now. They're probably going to draft themselves another wide receiver to see how that goes. But overall, I think you're building something special if Sam Darnold can continue to develop into the quarterback that he could be. I think he just got a short end of the stick being over there with the Jets, being over there with Carolina. He wasn't able to really start except for the 49ers, except for a game or two, and he did really good over there. Finally got to start back at the Vikings, and man, he was roaring. Kind of fizzled out there in the playoffs. But which Sam Darnold are you getting? The regular season Sam Darnold, or are you getting the playoff Sam Darnold? We have to wait and see. But right now, the Seahawks pushed all the chips into the table and said, okay, it's time for you to make us some money right now. Jackson Smith and Jigba, you are going to be the man, and Sam Darnold, you're going to be leading the ship. Let's just see what happens. I think the Seahawks may have made a mistake, but we're going to have to wait and see. I think Sam Darnold is better than what a lot of people are saying. So let's move right along here. The next guy we're going over with, we have to sit here. We have to talk about Justin Fields, right? This is one of those guys. He was a starter for Chicago, right? And he ended up saying, okay, I'm going to take a back seat for a year, even though he tried to compete for the job with the Steelers, didn't win the job, was a backup all season long. Then he wants to be a starter. What happens? Well, the Jets end up coming in and swooping up, grabbing and signing Justin Fields to a contract. He will be the starting quarterback for the Jets. They signed him to a 2-year, $40 million contract with $30 million of that guaranteed. He was talking there with the Steelers, but the one stipulation he had with the Steelers is the only way I'm signing back with you guys if you can guarantee I'm going to be the starter. They couldn't do that, so he moved along. Jets swooped in. He will be the starter, throwing it to Garrett Wilson out there in New York. We'll see how that ends up playing. I think overall, he's a fantasy football darling sometimes, right? He's either going to be a huge dud or he puts up massive fantasy numbers for you. So it's kind of like, good and the bad with Justin Fields. It just depends on how much you like to play with fire or whether or not you're going to draft him for your team. So let's move right along here. The next guy we're talking about, Elijah Mitchell ends up signing with the Chiefs, right? 1-year contract, $3.5 million. Kareem Hunt's a free agent, so that's pretty much wiping the floor. Say, okay, Kareem Hunt, thank you for your service. We no longer need you. Coming to Elijah Mitchell, who also, he runs very well, really good running back as long as he can stay healthy. So maybe Isaiah Pacheco becomes the man yet again. Elijah Mitchell's backing him up. That's the best case scenario for Elijah Mitchell. So next guy here, Jimmy Garoppolo, ends up re-signing another 1-year contract with the Rams. Signs an $11 million deal to be the backup there to Matthew Stafford. I think that's good for the Rams too. Not really much to talk about with that situation. The next guy I want to talk about is going to be Braxton Berrios, kind of the guy from the Jets or the Dolphins and whatnot. He ends up going signing with the Texans, and they've been really, really busy so far in this offseason. Already getting Christian Kirk, now getting Braxton Berrios. He signs a one-year deal for $2 million. We know Robert Woods and Stephon Diggs, they're gone in free agency, so we'll have to see what happens. But I think Braxton Berrios, a good possession wide receiver, could do well for CJ Stroud. So move right along here. The guy I want to talk about here is Justin Watson, that wide receiver from the Chiefs. Well, he ends up going over there with the Texans on a 1-year deal as well. So Justin Watson, I think he's a better wide receiver than what a lot of people kind of expect. A good, 4th string wide receiver, in a team. He can even be a 3rd string slot wide receiver if needed. But I think a good 4th wide receiver. And he's a good possession wide receiver who needed. Patrick Mahomes used him quite a bit to get first downs and touchdowns. So I like that move for CJ Stroud and his development. Justin Watson, he's going to be rocking and rolling. All right, now let's start to talk about Samaje Perine, guys. He is coming back to the Bengals on a 2-year deal for $3.8 million. What does this spell for fantasy football for the Bengals? Well, Chase Brown's probably going to be the man. He's going to be the number 1 running back there. I mean, Zach Moss, he might be done for. Who knows? He ended up being the starter, did okay in a couple games, then kind of fizzled out a little bit, gave way to Chase Brown. Now he might be out the door. Who knows? Samaje Perine, the thumper, but he could steal a lot of goal line touches. That's what he does. He's a good goal line runner, short yardage runner. Could take a lot of fantasy appeal away from Chase Brown as well. Samaje Perine, he's a very liked commodity. He loved his time over there with the Bengals, and I think the Bengals organization likes to have Perine. Goes out there, signs him, puts him back onto the roster. I think he's going to be good for fantasy football, good for Joe Burrow. Now let's start to talk about Josh Palmer. This is a good wide receiver, a nice starter over there for the Chargers. Well, now he ends up going over there and signing with the Bills. You got a 3-year, $36 million contract with $18 million of that guaranteed. Right, he's going over there with some commodities like Khalil Shakir. Just got himself a nice little payday. Keon Coleman, the rookie from last year, he's going to mix quite well. And I think Josh Allen, guys, I'm telling you, Josh Palmer could completely explode fantasy football rosters. He could be the guy that a lot of people win championships on the back of because they don't think of Josh Palmer being anything as of right now. He can come in there and be the main #1 wide receiver for this team, and there's going to be a lot of people sleeping on him. You're probably going to be getting him late in best ball drafts. He's going to be a sleeper guy, really value ADP type of guy, and can get you some consistent numbers. I like myself some Joshua Palmer. You put him over there with Josh Allen, who just got himself a nice big old payday with a 6-year deal. I think this could be a really big signing that's kind of flying under the radar for the Bills and fantasy football. Keep an eye on how he's doing in camp, where he's positioning himself. If he ends up climbing the depth chart, getting to the wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 1 spot, you got to wake up and try to get this guy onto your roster. He could probably give you a lot of good opportunities. So, move right along. The next guy we really need to talk about, Dyami Brown, right? He was playing really good last year with Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. He was shown to be a reliable option to be able to catch the football. Well, now he signs with the Jaguars, right? 1-year, $10 million deal. They're kind of doing a little bit of overhaul. We know Brian Thomas Jr. is the #1 wide receiver over there. They just let go Christian Kirk, sent them over there to the Texans. He's gone out of there. They still got Gabe Davis there right now, but Dyami Brown could come in and be the #2 wide receiver over here. They're a bad team. Negative game script a lot. They're going to be throwing the football a lot. Dyami Brown could probably give you some pretty good fantasy outings. I'm not saying go out there and make him one of your top 4 or 5 wide receivers, but if you can get some guy scrub at the back end of your draft, pick him up on your team, you never know what's going to come of this offense. And if Trevor Lawrence just get his head out of his ass just a little bit, he might be able to perform just enough to make Dyami Brown a nice fantasy asset. So let's move right along here. Next guy we're going to talk about, Kenny Pickett. Right, it was traded to the Browns for a 5th round pick. You know, it's funny because on the sleeper app when it came out, right, that he was traded, it said the Super Bowl champion Kenny Pickett. Who gives a crap? He was sitting over there giving freaking Gatorade to Jalen Hurts. He didn't do anything to help win that crap. I don't want to hear it. Anyway, I digress. Kenny Pickett, he hasn't shown us anything, right? When he was a starter with the Pittsburgh Steelers, what did he do? What did he do? I'll wait. You just let me know in the comments below. Do you think Kenny Pickett is worth a starting guy right now? But right now, he might be the starting quarterback. But I think that all for sure locks in the opportunity for the Browns to take either Shadur Sanders or Cam Moore with their first pick, whoever's available. I think they're going rookie quarterback no matter what, because Kenny Pickett, you can't go into the season, especially after signing Myles Garrett. No, you can't go into that with this. No, get Pickett out of there. We ain't worried about it, right? Let's just move right along here because, look, it's going to get on me right now. I can't do it. I can't do it. Kenny Pickett. Let's go to another mad quarterback. That's going to be Joshua Dobbs, right? He's in signing a contract. He had some flashes. He was all over the place doing some good things. He ends up signing with the Patriots. 2-year deal. $8 million. $3.8 million guaranteed. And see, look, he's backing up Drake May, right? Oh, you got to call a spade a spade. You got him, you got the 2 other quarterbacks who were both rookies last season, in May and Milton. So he's the 3rd best quarterback on this roster. If anything, he's probably just another camp body. So it is what it is. Now it's time to talk about Zach Wilson, guys. This could be a little sneaky if you really think about it, right? Zach Wilson goes and signs with the Miami Dolphins. Now he ends up signing a 1-year, $6 million deal. They needed some type of quarterback that can come in, right? They've had a lot of cockadoodle backing up behind Tua Tagovailoa. Not saying that Josh Wilson isn't cockadoodle, but he's probably a better, shinier version of cockadoodle, I guess you could say. But he sets himself up for a potential of being in a nice, potent offense. If Tyreek Hill, if they can keep him happy, you still got Jalen Waddle there, Jonnu Smith at the tight end position, Devon A-Chain in the backfield as well. If something happens, God forbid, to Tua Tagovailoa, he gets another concussion, he's out. Zach Wilson's coming in. He gets to prove himself yet again. So he put himself in an opportunity where he can kind of get things done. He went over to the Broncos last season, I think, because he thought Bo Nix wasn't going to be what he was, and maybe he would have had an opportunity over there with Sean Payton. That didn't really work out. Now he goes over to the Dolphins, who has a concussion-prone quarterback, and Tua Tagovailoa, so maybe he gets a shot over there. So I said, it's only a 1-year deal, only $6 million. I say only $6 million. Who wouldn't like $6 million in the comments? But hey, I digress, right? I think Zach Wilson set himself up for the future, for an opportunity to be the man. If he steps in, he's got all the players around him to be successful. So let's move right along here, right? The guy that we need to talk about today is going to be Darius Slayton, right? He ends up going back and re-signing with the Giants. He had over 500 yards receiving last year. I mean, he was doing really well with cock-a-doodle quarterback play, and you can only suggest that the quarterback's probably going to get better this season. At least we hope so, at least for Malik Neighbors, sake. You know what I'm saying? But he signs for a 3-year, $36 million deal. So I think it's going to be the case where he's locked in as the number 2 wide receiver. He's going to be the other go-to guy in this offense other than Wan'Dale Robinson and Malik Neighbors. Couldn't think of his name all of a sudden. But they got their wide receiver set now. They got their 3 wide receivers. Now they just need to focus on getting their quarterback into the building. Who is it going to be? We don't know. Maybe Russell Wilson. Maybe Aaron Rodgers. I mean, who knows who's going to go out there? I'm hoping maybe Kirk Cousins, right? So we'll see what happens, but I think Darius Slayton overall is a good fantasy option for you. He's a good possession wide receiver. Get down the field. He can score you some fantasy options, and you can take him with your last pick in the draft and see what happens. Throw the dart, see if it sticks, right? So Darius Slayton, back to the Giants. So the next time we have to go over, we're going to talk about big body wide receiver Mack Hollins, right? This is one of those wide receivers. He played really good with the Bills when he had the opportunities. Now he gets to go to an opportunity where if they don't really draft anybody, they don't really get any high-profile wide receivers, he could be the number 1 wide receiver taking over for Jalen Polk or Javon Baker, any of these guys, right? So he's a big guy. He could be a nice possession wide receiver for Drake May to continue to develop. He signs with the Patriots 2-year, $8.4 million contract. Look, he could be the guy. He didn't sign for a ton of money as far as wide receivers go, but he has an opportunity to compete to be a top 2 wide receiver for an offense who's probably going to be losing a lot of games anyway. Right, so there's gonna be a lot of fantasy appeal in that issue. So I think you got Hunter Henry out there catching the football, and you got Mack Hollins catching the football. There's not a lot else up there. Douglas, whatever. So we'll see what happens. They're probably gonna get some more people in the draft as well. All right, the next guy we're going to talk about today, we got Javonte Williams. Finally, the Cowboys signed somebody. Now they get themselves a running back at Javonte Williams. You can almost kind of kiss Rico Dowdle's kind of tenure goodbye with the Cowboys. Javonte Williams, as of right now, could be the main running back. And could this signing mean that Ashton Jeanty is not on the Cowboys' radar in the first round? How far does Ashton Jeanty fall? I think in my last mock draft, I even had the Saints picking Ashton Jeanty in the top 10. So we'll see how that ends up going. But as of right now, Javonte Williams has an opportunity, if he can stay healthy, to be the man for this Cowboys offense. He's clearly the number 1 running back, best running back on the roster as of right now. And he could put up a ton of fantasy points if given opportunities. I mean, if Dak Prescott comes back healthy, you still got CeeDee Lamb on the outside, Jake Ferguson at the tight end position, and Javonte Williams is going to be running the football. I like myself some Javonte Williams. He signs a 1-year, $3 million deal. It's almost like a prove-it deal, I guess you could say. It's not a ton of money, but a good, decent quality running back for the Cowboys who needed to get a running back in the building. I mean, Rico Dowdle and Ezekiel Elliott, that's not going to get the job done. So Javonte Williams might be able to get some things rolling for the Cowboys. I like it for fantasy football as of right now. We'll have to see if they add anybody into the NFL draft or something like that. So we're right along here. We're talking about T. Higgins. T. Higgins being tagged for the 2nd consecutive year, guys. 2 years in a row, we got T. Higgins being tagged. I mean, this is absolutely crazy. They have until July 15th to work out a long-term contract, or they're going to have to pay the penalty for tagging somebody twice in a row, where they pay him 120% raise for this season, which would make him $26.2 million this season. You can only tag him 3 times, and if they tag him again next year, they got to pay 144% price tag of his salary. So I think they're going to try to work a long-term deal. They're very optimistic on wanting T. Higgins back into this building. They know Joe Burrow works great when you have both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase on the field. They're both excellent wide receivers. T. Higgins was one of my do not draft players last year, and I got a lot of flack for that. But you know what? I was right. He missed a ton of time with injury, and the way he was going ADP-wise, people were paying way too much money for a wide receiver who can't be on the field. And in a contract season, I try to tell you guys, don't draft T. Higgins. Number 1, you're wasting a high draft pick. Yeah, when he plays, he's a great option. I get that. He had a couple bomb games too. Awesome. But when you draft someone that high, ADP wise, and you lose them for half the season, That's not going to make you happy as a fantasy owner. So I hope you guys can start listening a little bit right here on the Bayou Bingo Fantasy Network. That we are not BSing. When I say do not draft this player, I'm pretty high on the hits that I have of do not draft this guy. T. Higgins was one of those guys. Now, if he can work out a long-term contract, T. Higgins isn't going to be on that do not draft. He's going to be on the do draft because I think he's a talented wide receiver. So I think just slapping the second consecutive tag on Higgins, they're just going to hopefully buy him some more time to where they get an extension and a long-term contract for T. Higgins. Now, the next guy we have to talk about, we're going to talk about Evan Ingram visiting the Denver Broncos and what that can mean for fantasy football, right? Bo Nix needs himself a tight end, right? He's got some wide receivers out there he can throw to. Troy Franklin, he was fielding even more rapport. He's a wide receiver that come from Oregon with him. You know, you got Cortland Sutton on the outside as well. He was doing good. You had Mims, you got Vele, a lot of players out there. But right now, they didn't have a tight end. What, Greg Dolchich? Now he's gone. He's over there, I think, with the Giants or something like that. You know, it just didn't work out. You had Troutman there as well. Now you get somebody like an Evan Ingram over there with the Denver Broncos. I think that would be a match made in heaven, especially for fantasy football. If you have Evan Ingram, oh, that boost is through the roof. When you got an accurate quarterback like Bo Nix throwing you the football, man, that can mean for success. I like myself some Evan Ingram. He is visiting the Broncos, didn't sign with the Broncos yet. I think they're going to do a hard push to get Evan Ingram on their roster. Moving right along here, we're talking about Michael Gallup. He's kind of set to unretire. He was retired early before the season started in 2024. Now unretiring and kind of visiting the Commanders. He's kind of wanting to play with Jaden Daniels, and I don't blame him, right? There's a little bit of an opening over there to be able to play maybe the third fiddle on this offense and seeing how it goes. Now, will it turn out to anything? I don't know. Michael Gallup, a decent wide receiver, could end up being well for Jaden Daniels to have another deep threat on their roster. Last thing I want to talk about, we're going to talk about the Chargers eyeing Najee Harris, guys. This could be great. J.K. Dobbins gone in free agency. Najee Harris probably not going to be back with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was kind of sharing some of his time with Jaylen Warren over there. And now if he goes over, ends up signing with the Chargers, which I hope he does, could be great. Jim Harbaugh, he loves running the football, and they have a big opening there at the running back position. And we know Najee Harris, he's run for 1,000 yards every single season he's been in the NFL. I think he's a match made in heaven for the Chargers. This could be a great opportunity for the Chargers to get a running back that can be a 1,000-yard rusher, be the cornerstone of their team. Still a young guy to match over there with Justin Herbert. This could be a great move for the Chargers offensively. You got Ladd McConkey clicking on all cylinders. You got Justin Herbert at quarterback and Najee Harris at the running back position. Please, Chargers, grab Najee Harris. That would be great for dynasty owners. That would be great for redraftability. I would love myself some Najee Harris if he ended up with the Chargers. But guys, that breaks down everybody as of right now, as of the recording of this video, for all the free agency moves that has happened thus far in the NFL. And best believe I will do my best to keep you guys up to date on all the things that are happening in the NFL throughout the entire offseason, through the NFL draft, guys. We're doing all the free agency stuff, all the NFL draft stuff. We're doing some best ball stuff. We're going to talk about some dynasty stuff, dynasty startups, dynasty regular drafts, rookie drafts, redrafts, everything right here on the Bayou Bingo Fantasy Network. Hit the like button, guys. Smash it on this video. It really helps out a lot. Hit the subscribe button. We're pumping out so much videos each and every week to help you best dominate your fantasy leagues. And I can't wait to see you guys on the next video. And we'll see you guys next time.